Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of the Mike and Mike Show. This episode is a very special episode because I have my daughter with me, Xandra, and we have decided to do a video on our top 10 favorite movies of all time. Now, this is not, by any means downgrading any kind of movie in any genre whatsoever. It's from different genres. It's just our top 10 list of our favorite movies that have stood the test of time. Okay?
Not to mention we have different generations.
Generations, so there'll be a little generational gap in between there somewheres. I'm sure she's going to pick some movies that I would probably never watch in a million years. So because she's more up to date on the new style of filmmaking, where I'm kind of old school still.
VHS.
So we're going to start. We're going to start from our top 10 and go down to number 1, and we will have an honorable mention. So because it's too hard to make a top 10 list.
It really
and get
is.
everything in there. It's so difficult.
It is.
Okay, so do you want to start first with your number 10?
Sure. My number 10 is Spirit, the cartoon.
Ah,
the Mustang of Cimarron.
The Stallion of the Cimarron. Yes, the Disney flick. I remember buying you that.
Pixar.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pixar.
I'm pretty sure it was Pixar. It might have been DreamWorks.
It may have been DreamWorks.
I think it was DreamWorks.
I'm not sure.
But, yeah, no, I remember... I love that movie, and I also remember just... you remember that birthday that we had for me at CiCi's freaking Pizza?
Mm-hmm.
There hasn't been a CiCi's Pizza. I think there's like 2 running.
Yeah. They just kind of went.
Yeah, and they were awesome too. And I miss CiCi's Pizza so bad.
Yeah. All right, so your number 10 was Stallion.
Yes.
My number 10 is a totally different.
Of course.
Of course, it's going to be totally different. My number 10 is the 1984 Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
Good one. Good choice.
That movie is not the only reason, but the reason why that movie is so iconic is because of the one-liners and the script and the delivery.
Yes. I mean, Jim Carrey is just an amazing actor. You can't think of a funny movie and not think of something that Jim Carrey's been in.
Right. Something like somebody like Jim Carrey or a Chris Farley.
Yes.
Somebody that's took a role and made it so iconic that it has stood the test of time, like Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
True.
Very good movie. Enjoyed it very much so.
I do too.
Okay. Number 9.
My number 9 is Smile. It is a new horror movie that currently the only place I've found it is Paramount Plus. It was made by a YouTuber, actually, and then Paramount heard word of it after he had created one other film, which is also with it, like it's a prequel. Smile is to this other film.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's really good. I haven't watched the other film, but if you, I think it's called something Sarah.
Okay.
But if you remember the lead character in Smile, her name is Sarah.
Right.
Yeah. So it's more along the lines of a prequel of what happened in that first movie that he made.
Oh, okay. So
and just the effects in this alone.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
And I mean, you never expect what's going to come next in this kind of movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always going to be something else. And this is definitely one of those like mind thrillers, like a suspension type of movie.
Oh yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So good. It was very, very well done. I remember watching that when it
Yes.
came out. I was so excited to watch it, and it was very, very good. Like she said, it was great.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to my number 9, which is the 1984 horror slasher Hills Have Eyes Part 2. This movie was directed by Wes Craven, and the remakes of both Part 1 and Part 2 that came out, I think, in like 2000, somewhere around in there, those were decent movies. I'm not knocking those at all, but the 2 original films are just my favorite films. Wes Craven did an amazing job directing these films, and it was something that had not been done before. And, because it took place in a desert, there was no escape. I mean, it was just so groundbreaking, in my opinion, as a slasher film. So it was a great movie, and it had a lot of iconic people in it, like, Wes Craven as the director, Harry Manfredini as the music score. I mean, he done Friday 13th. He done All the Hills Have Eyes. He done several Friday 13th films, actually. Nightmare on Elm Street. I mean, he did musical scores for all these movies back in the 80s and 90s, and still doing it today.
True.
He's an iconic music score artist.
He really is. My number 8 is It, and that's not according to any remake. It is literally just It in general, because all of these It movies are amazing. I mean, even the what year did that come out?
Oh, I think it was in the 90s.
Yeah.
90s,
Who was what was his name?
Curry.
Curry, yes, Tim Curry.
Tim Curry
did an amazing job, I mean, and back then, you don't have the effects like the newer It movies do.
Yeah,
the new
yeah.
It remakes with Bill Skarsgård, which is amazing as well. Yes, he did amazing.
Very, very much so.
And then It 2 was also phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean,
and a lot of people didn't like the second one. I don't know why.
I mean, I enjoyed it.
But I liked both. I liked both films. Both the first and the second part. And the original. Like you said, the original was a classic.
Oh, yeah.
In my eyes.
I still watch that one
Tim
now.
Curry was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And, all those movies are so good. So if you have never watched those, please take time to watch those.
Seriously,
those
take
are so
time
good.
to watch those. And if you're not a movie person, take time to read the book.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the book's good, too.
Yes.
The book is good,
very
too.
Good.
Okay, so that was your number 8. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my number 8 is Friday the 13th, Part 7.
Why 7?
Come out in 1988. Why 7?
Why 7?
Because it was different from the other Friday the 13th films in the fact that the main hero, which, it was a woman in most of them.
Right.
So that set it together. But this one, Lar Park Lincoln played the heroine in this movie. She had psychic powers.
Okay.
And was able to fight back against Jason. And that was something that had never been done in any of the other films or the later films. And it was kind of neat to see somebody who had their own set of powers fight back against Jason. I mean, the one scene in that movie when she first ran in, I think it was when she first saw Jason, that was not in a dream state. When she first saw Jason face to face, she actually used her powers to squeeze his mask so tight that it snapped. And it opened up and you saw Jason's face. And the look on Jason's face was iconic. I mean, it was like, holy cow, what just happened? He had no idea what was going on. That movie set it off from every other Friday the 13th film. Just in that aspect alone.
Kind of like the Elm Street
Dreamwalkers. Yeah, the
Elm
Street Dreamwalkers. Yeah, that was the best Elm Street.
It really was.
So, and then it was directed by John Carl Birchler, I think is how you say the last name. I probably butchered it. But he's a horror icon himself. Not only because of this movie, but he also he had a supporting role in Hatchet with Adam Green. Those movies are really good if you like the gore aspect of things. Plus, they have Kane Hodder in them as well. So those are good movies as well. But Friday the 13th Part 7 is one of my favorite ones simply because of that. And the fact that Lar Park Lincoln was so good in that movie, the way she didn't understand how she was able to do this or what was causing this. And Terry Kaiser was also in the film as her psychiatrist, who was trying to say that it was her guilt over her father's death, which, we never did really find out exactly why she was able to do all this stuff, but she just had that power. And she used it against Jason, and it was great. It was finally great to see somebody actually fight back with even a power that Jason didn't even understand.
Yeah.
So that movie's iconic for me.
Of course, you had to follow her through that movie as well, and she's got to be a dynamic character, so she has to learn her powers as she goes.
Yeah. Find out the limits of what she can do and what she can't do, which at that point, I mean, to me, throughout that movie, she was discovering her abilities, but there was no point that she could reach that she was not able to control it in a certain way. Whenever they tried to base it off of her anxiety, whenever she got upset or she got mad, that's when it came out that she was able to use it. But to me, I felt she could always control it.
Right.
More than what she thought she could. But that movie's just iconic to me, just for that aspect alone. But yeah, that movie is great.
Oh yeah. My number 7 is Crybaby with Johnny Depp because...
Why did I not know that movie was going to be on there somewhere?
I mean, seriously though, like Johnny Depp is an amazing actor. I mean, in any movie he plays in. and including his animated movies like Frankenweenie and
Oh,
The Corpse Bride,
Bride.
and all these other films that he does with Tim Burton, of course. Johnny Depp is just an amazing actor. Like, there's nothing more to it than that,
One of my favorite movies that Johnny Depp done was probably, I would have to say, Edward Scissorhands.
Oh yeah, I love that.
I really enjoyed that movie the most.
Yeah,
but like you said, Johnny Depp is an incredible
he's
actor.
just an incredible actor. I mean, he really makes the movie.
He's able to take the role that he's given and just shine higher, brighter than some of the other characters in the films.
I mean, Alice in Wonderland. He did amazing as the Mad Hatter. I mean, oh my God, you have to watch it. It's so good, and he does so much. His personality, you would never know, like, if you ever met Johnny Depp, what his personality would be, because he plays so many different personalities. I mean, you've got Willy Wonka, and then Captain Jack Sparrow, and Edward Scissorhands. I mean, Gilbert Grape.
Yeah, Gilbert Grape, he was in that. That was a great movie. I love that movie.
Seriously. And then, what was that one?
Sleepy Hollow. They were Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, well, no, but I'm talking about, like, with the Twinkies on the fork. What was that called? Benny and
June.
Benny and June. That was a good one, too. I mean...
yeah, because he had that where he would, like, use inanimate objects to perform.
Yeah, and almost kind of, like communicate. Yeah. That was just an iconic scene in my brain, was him sticking the forks and the Twinkies and just dancing. Yeah. That was so cute.
Yeah, that was awesome. And if you haven't ever seen it, Secret Window.
I haven't.
With Johnny Depp. That movie is a psychological thrill ride.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you. Because he in that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in that movie he plays an author that goes into the country to either write a book or just get away from everything.
Right.
And he has a crazed fan. And it kind of puts him in a position to where he doesn't know if he's dealing with reality or if it's all in his head, the stuff that happens. And it is really good movie. Really good movie with Johnny Depp.
Sounds like something
I'll watch. Yeah. So now let us go to my number 7, which is Waterboy from 1998 with Adam Sandler.
Of course. Just
this movie is just, it's magnificent.
Comedy gold.
Comedy gold, and Adam Sandler's delivery. Kathy Bates is all the characters. Kathy Bates, Jerry Reed, Henry Winkler, all the characters nail this movie.
Seriously.
Nail this movie. And Adam Sandler's delivery, like I said, is just amazing. There is so many epic scenes in this movie. You cannot. Yeah. And it doesn't matter. It's like, this movie's like Ace Ventura. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen this movie before.
It's always
you can still watch it and still laugh your rear end off every time. It's unreal. It is unreal. And I love that movie. And Kathy Bates, I love Kathy Bates because Mama said foosball is the devil. And she was great in this movie.
She was really great in the movie. I mean...
And it had guys like, Rob Schneider had a little cameo thing in there.
Which is a given with Adam Sandler being in the movie.
Yeah,
I mean...
Yeah. And I think, I don't know if... I was kind of surprised that David Spade wasn't in there somewhere. He may have been, and I may not have caught it after all the times I've seen it.
True.
But I don't think he was ever in it, but that was kind of surprising to me that David Spade didn't have a little cameo in it like Rob Schneider did.
Yeah.
But that movie is just... I love that movie. That movie's amazing.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're ready for your number 6.
My number 6 is The Great Gatsby. Not the old version, the Leonardo DiCaprio version. Because, I mean, when I was in school, I read that book, and we watched the old version, which is trash.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I've never watched it.
I mean, it's garbage. I mean, seriously. It's just so obvious.
Yeah.
Like, all their emotions are just way over the top in that first rendition of it, and it's too gaudy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But in this one, with Leonardo DiCaprio, you get more of, like, it's an actual movie, and it follows the book very, very well.
Yeah.
And it's just the all-out beautifulness of, like, the Flapper era.
Yeah.
I love it. Like, I love that.
I've
So,
never
I
watched
mean,
it.
that's
I've never seen that.
just one of my favorites.
Okay.
And I have the book too. It's one of my favorite books as well.
Okay. All right. So now my number 6 is Jaws, the Steven Spielberg 1976 classic or 1975 classic. I'm sorry. And this movie was iconic in the fact that it's kind of like the comedy films with Adam Sandler. I could watch this movie no matter how many times I've seen it before. I can watch this movie and still get enjoyment out of it. And basically, it's because of not only the delivery of the characters in the movie, but it's just the ambiance, the way it's set up, the suspense that builds. Because for the first part of the movie, you don't even see the shark. You know it's there because of the music and the delivery of the musical score and the way the storyline goes. It builds up that suspense, and then when you finally see the shark, you're like, "Holy crap! This thing is huge!" And this movie, Roy Schneider was great in this movie, and Richard Dreyfuss was great as the Oceanographic Institute guy that comes in. I mean, this whole movie was a suspense go getter. I mean, it's iconic. And one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is the iconic line that Roy Schneider delivers when he first sees the shark, and that is, "I think we're going to need a bigger boat." I mean, that means,
seriously.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I know they've made like 4 of these freaking movies,
Yeah.
okay, and they kind of burned it out. But
Just a
the first 2 films out of the 4 were the best ones. Now I like Jaws 3 because it was in 3D. It was a more kind of updated thing.
Yeah.
Plus, it has Louis Gossett Jr. in it. You can't go wrong with that. But anyways, that's beside the point. But the first 2 movies were excellent. The third one was kind of a reach, but it was still good if you had never watched it before. But the fourth one, I mean, the best thing about the fourth one was the fact that Michael Caine was in it. But even Michael Caine couldn't hold this movie together. Even Michael Caine could not hold that movie together. But anyways, I mean, it had Michael Caine and I think Mario Van Peebles was in it in the fourth one. But I mean, it was a terrible script. It was a cash grab.
Yeah.
In my
100%.
100% cash grab. But
Oh,
the
yeah.
first 2 films, iconic. The third one was great. So if you haven't seen any of those, just watch the first 3 because the fourth one doesn't even matter.
True. Very true. My 5th one is Miss Doubtfire with Robin Williams.
Yes.
Because, I mean, why not? I mean, right? It's such a good movie. And when you think of it as like a child watching this movie, they're going to laugh the entire way through.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Now, when you rewatch that movie as an adult,
yeah,
there's a different side to that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Because now you're not just seeing, dad's making funny voices at his kids. No, dad is trying as hard as he can to spend time with his kids.
Yeah.
I mean, and even though he kind of went about it in the most extremist way, which of course he did, it's a movie.
It's a movie, and it's Robin Williams.
Exactly. He was just trying to have a good time with his kids. He was just trying to have that moment that he needed with his children.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah. Any father worth their salt is going to go to extreme lengths to be with their children. And like you said, when you're watching that movie as a kid, you see the comedy aspect of it and the funny voices and all that stuff. But when you go back and watch it as an adult, that serious side kind of slaps you in the face.
It really does.
When you watch it. But it's another one of those movies that you can actually watch time and time again and still get enjoyment out of the whole movie.
100%.
It stood the test of time. The storyline is just great. The whole script,
and when when you rewatch as an adult, the script and the storyline makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
And it just makes the movie really because as a kid you watch that and it's just comedy for you.
Yeah.
Because you don't really understand what's going on between Robin and his wife or anything like that. But
Sally Field was great in that.
Yeah, she was. But one scene in that movie, that really, as an adult, makes the sentimental heartache really drop is whenever he's in that diner or in that really nice fancy restaurant and he has to switch back and forth and then he ends up mixing it up. And oh God.
Yeah. The look on his face when he knew, oops.
Yeah.
It's done. I'm done. It's over.
The
and
ruse is
then
over.
and then the court date after that,
Yeah.
when he tries to appeal to the judge, and the judge says, I don't think you're doing anything but putting on a performance. That your sentiment, your feelings towards your children is not real. It's just an actor playing a part. That just,
That's just devastating.
that was just devastating, and you could feel it.
Yeah.
You could feel it. And one of my favorite parts in that movie was when he first tried to cook the meal
Right.
on the stove, and he ended up setting his fake boobs on fire.
Yes.
And he grabs the pots, and he's like, "Oh, first day as a woman, I'm already having hot flashes." That movie was amazing.
That's
I love
great.
it. I love it. All right, now my number 5. You noticed a genre thing going on here, because I've kind of skipped from action to horror, and
Yeah.
it's kind of weird because everybody sees me as like this big horror buff.
Yeah.
And yeah, I love horror movies, but I also love action movies. There are some dramas that I do. Yes, there are some dramas that I do enjoy watching.
Mhm.
Okay, so my number 5 is Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, directed by John Woo. That movie.
I don't feel like I've seen this.
That's the movie where John Travolta plays an FBI agent who is after Nicolas Cage, not only because he's a bad guy, but because Nicolas Cage killed his son. And when he finally catches up to Nicolas Cage is almost dead because of, him being captured.
Right.
And Nicolas Cage's brother has planted a bomb somewhere in the city. So the FBI needs to find out where that bomb is. So they decide that since Nicolas Cage's character is incapacitated and they can't use him to get any kind of information,
Right.
they do a surgery that trades John Travolta's face for Nicolas Cage's face, and allow him into the prison with Nicolas Cage's brother to find out where this bomb is, so they can defuse the bomb.
Oh, now it makes sense.
So while John Travolta is in prison playing Nicolas Cage's character to find out where this bomb is,
Right.
Nicolas Cage comes out of his coma or whatever he was in, and
With
puts
John
on
Travolta's
John
face?
Travolta's face,
Oh.
and then takes over his whole life.
Oh God.
So now John Travolta, who was supposed to be the good guy, the FBI agent, and everybody that knew about the surgery, Nicolas Cage killed after he had John Travolta's face put on, so nobody else knew what was
Well,
going
that
on.
was stupid.
So I mean, that whole thing was just like, here's this guy who is trying to do a job, and granted, he went about it the wrong way. But anyway.
Yeah, he went around it in a very prideful, kind of stupid way.
And now he's stuck wearing the face of his son's killer.
Yeah.
And there's and the whole time he's trying to.
Don't tell me he killed the doctor too.
Nicolas Cage, yeah.
That's so stupid. How are you gonna get your face back?
The doctor that performed the surgery, yeah, Nicolas Cage killed him, so there was no way that John Travolta could get his life back. But then, through the magic of movies, they flew another doctor in at the end of the movie to correct everything. But anyways, I just ruined the ending.
Well, it's fine.
But anyways, this whole movie was action from start to finish.
Right.
Nicolas Cage delivers an iconic villain role in this movie. John Travolta's great. But the thing of it is it was the way the movie was set up. Not only did John Travolta and Nicolas Cage get to play good guy, bad guy,
Yeah.
they got to reverse and play bad guy, good guy.
Yeah.
So each one of them got a chance to play as a hero and a villain in this movie. John Woo's an amazing director as far as action movies go.
Right.
There are so many that there's Face Off, there's Broken Arrow with John Travolta and Christian. What was his name? I can't even think of his name now.
I don't know. The only one that I can think of is a Christian Bale, but I don't know.
No, that's not it.
it.
No, that's not it. I may be wrong. But anyway, John Travolta, another movie with John Travolta was Broken Arrow. That movie was great too. But Face Off was just it, and I could watch that movie and just enjoy it from start to finish every single time I watch it.
Oh yeah.
every single time I watch it. If you have not seen it, you need to watch that because that movie is just great. John Travolta's great in it. Nicolas Cage is over the top as usual.
Of course.
So, it's an awesome watch. It's an awesome watch.
Of course. My number 4 is another Johnny Depp movie, of course. It's Sweeney Todd. I mean, it's so good. What is that for?
I've only watched it one time.
You need to watch it again.
And it was...
You need to watch it again.
you know about me and musicals.
Yeah, but this is a murderous musical.
True. I mean, I get the story. I get the concept of it. It was an okay movie for me.
But do you get the social construct of it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, I still don't think I would... Well, I mean, this is your list. It's fine.
Now, wait a minute.
But I'm just saying, it's not one of those movies that I would go back and I would rewatch.
Oh, I've watched it a million times.
It's not one... For me, it's not one of those that I would go back and rewatch.
Right. I mean, you have to think about it this way, though, because... right now Johnny Depp has just come back from incarceration and, what's the word for it? Shunned. Like, he was basically, shipped off and said, get out of here. Yeah. Like, I'm stealing your wife.
Yeah.
And your child.
Right.
And, he comes back. Of course he has a vengeance, I mean.
Oh, yeah.
And, he looks at this society in London.
Right.
Right? And it's literally just the rich stay up here and the poor eat whatever they can.
And he has total disdain for the hierarchy.
Yes, he has total disdain for literally everything.
Yeah.
He is so just revenge-eaten in this movie that he just hates literally everybody.
Yeah.
Cannot stand anybody. And it goes along with, I can't remember what it was, but something in English class when I was a kid. It was a satire piece, and it was, let's solve world hunger by eating people.
Yeah. That sounds kind of weird.
So, I mean, it sounds weird, but we're overpopulated and dying out of hunger in certain spots in the world. I mean, it would solve 2 problems. But that's the satire and morality of it all, and then, Johnny starts killing off people who are dirtbags.
Yeah.
And just don't deserve breath,
Yeah.
I mean...
So he becomes kind of like a vigilante.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. The Barber of Fleet Street vigilante. 100%.
All right. So, now, my number 4 is one that I know you like too. It's the 1987 horror comedy, The Lost Boys.
Perfect pick. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And again, Joel Schumacher knocks it out the park with this one.
Oh, yeah.
Kiefer Sutherland is good in this movie. He's awesome as the vampire.
Yeah.
Not the head vampire, but as a vampire.
Yes.
And it kind of threw me off when I first watched it because I think it was the guy that played Bill.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the guy that played Bill in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Played a vampire in this movie.
Yes, he was the second in command.
And he was so good.
He was. He was excellent. So something. He was excellent.
Yeah.
That's just something that you don't expect from him because you've seen him in Bill and Ted.
Right.
You don't expect that serious and more of a villain role.
Yeah. And that's kind of like goes along with Keanu Reeves. You don't. Because he was in, Bill and Ted with this guy.
Yeah.
And then he went on to do films like, The Matrix, these action
John
films.
Wick 1 through 4.
John Wick 1 through 4. And I mean, you wouldn't expect to see that from a guy that played in Bill and Ted.
Yeah,
but it happened. It happened.
I mean,
this movie was so good.
You have to think about it. Every actor has to have at least a shot in every genre.
Well, I mean, look at Kevin Bacon. His first film role was Friday the 13th, and nobody knew who the hell he was when he played it. Nobody. But he had that iconic death scene, and his career just went took off.
Yep.
So The Lost Boys was great. It had the horror. It had the comedy. Of course, it had
action.
The action in it, and Jason Patrick was great in it. Hugh Starr was great in it. I can't think of the guy's name, but the guy that played Grandpa was so funny.
Yes, I freaking love the
was
grandpa in
so
this
funny in
movie.
this
He
movie.
is comedy
You know,
gold, man.
and yeah, and
Of course, don't forget.
Edward and Alan Frog.
Yup. Corey Haim and
Corey
Corey
Haim
Feldman.
and Corey Feldman. This movie was. I don't know if it was. I don't think it was the first time those two ever made a movie together.
No, I
But-
think the first one wasn't that.
There was so many movies that these two guys did together, and they were comedy gold.
Seriously,
so
I mean,
good
they
together.
just gelled. You know,
Yeah.
they knew how to bounce off each other, like,
Right.
and they
right.
just knew how to work a screen.
Right. And-
Seriously.
One of my favorite quotes from that movie is at the end of the movie with Grandpa at the end of the movie, where he says, "The only damn thing I couldn't stand about Santa Carla was all the damn vampires." He knew what was going on through the whole
he
damn
knew.
movie, and
He
nobody
knew
else knew
everything,
that
yeah.
he even knew. I mean,
He
that
knew
movie was so
everything.
great. That movie's so great. It's
What
one of my
baffles
favorites.
me though is he knew everything that was going on. Never told his daughter.
Never told his
Never
daughter.
told his daughter. Mom was way out the loop. Like,
Yeah.
she thought everybody was going insane.
They thought he was smoking too much wacky weed, and he just
Yeah.
had no clue what was going on. But he knew exactly what was going on the
Yes.
whole time. So that movie was great. That
And when
movie
he
was
just walks into the living room and it's just shambled, like
great. Yeah.
he's like, it's just another Tuesday.
All right, you're number 3.
Breakfast Club.
Okay. Yeah.
Breakfast Club.
Good movie. One that I probably would have picked had I really put a lot of thought in. I mean, she changed her list none.
Nope.
Not one time.
Nope.
I changed my list 4 times. 4 times trying to figure this out. I had such a hard time with it. But that's okay.
It also shows our personality difference.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does. It does. So you like Breakfast Club. Okay.
Yes. Breakfast Club is such an iconic, like,
It
80s,
is.
90s movie. I mean, like, you literally have every clique, you know, high
Yeah.
school clique,
Right.
represented
Right.
by different kids.
Nerd, the jock, bullies,
Basket case.
basket case,
Oh,
every
yeah.
bit of it.
You've got
every
everybody.
bit of it.
And, I mean, to see, you know, at first, none of them get along. They all
Oh, yeah,
hate each
yeah,
other,
yeah.
you know, which is normal, you know, they're not friends. And then once you get through that movie, you
Mhm.
realize that they're not that much different.
Right.
None of them
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
Like, literally, the only thing that's different is the outside.
Right.
Because, I mean, who played the popular chick?
That was Molly Ringwald.
Yes, Molly. Molly changed our
Oh, yeah.
basket case
Yeah.
into basically a duplicate,
Right.
you know? And as soon as that happened, everybody else's opinion on her
Change.
was different.
Yeah.
Because of the way she looked on the outside.
Changed
And that
drastically.
just shows so much social construct,
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a good movie. I have
And
seen
not to
that
mention,
movie.
it's just fun to watch.
It
the
is.
soundtrack is
It
great,
The
too.
soundtrack
Is amazing.
Yeah. Pure 80s gold.
Yes.
That soundtrack is pure 80s gold. Okay, so moving on to my number 3, which is the 1984 action comedy Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy.
Big facts. Good.
That movie is I can watch that. It's just like, you know, Ace Ventura, Waterboy. I can watch that movie a billion times and still laugh every time.
Oh, yeah.
Eddie, the iconic laugh that Eddie Murphy has in that movie
Mm-hmm.
is iconic. The only issue that I had with that movie at all, but I got used to it, was that song, Axel F. They played that song through the whole movie. And it got drilled into your brain, and it was so hard to get it out of your head. And then what happened? Crazy Frog hit.
Yup.
And then that drilled it into your head again. So if
Yep.
you've never heard Crazy Frog, you need to go watch Crazy Frog on YouTube, because those are great. Those are funny. But expect that song to get stuck in your head all over again.
For the rest of your life.
But this movie, Eddie Murphy was great. Judge Reinhold was good. Even the guy that played Taggart was great. And the comedy delivery from Eddie Murphy is spectacular, as it always is.
Of course.
And it was so good. I liked the first movie. The second movie was great. The third one was kind of fell off a little bit. Just a little. But the first movie and second movie are great. So if you haven't seen those, do watch those, because those are iconic films. And it, like Beverly Hills Cop, first movie stands the test of time. Truly stands the test of time.
True. My number 2 is the entire franchise of Jurassic Park because I was a dinosaur kid.
Yeah.
I was the
Yes,
dinosaur kid.
You were.
I was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know how sometimes you're just talking to somebody and you're like, if you could own one animal that is just extinct, you know?
Right.
You could bring it back and own it.
Right.
As a pet, and it listened to you. What would you pick? What would you pick?
That's a hard question.
It is, but it's not hard for me. I mean, when you think about it, you know, me being a dinosaur kid.
Yeah.
And there's one scene in the very first Jurassic Park that has shaped me for the rest of my life about that question. And that is the claw.
Oh, yeah.
The claw.
Yeah.
He puts that raptor claw in his hand and he scares the living crap out of that kid.
Because he says it looks like a giant turkey.
Yes! And you know what? Granted, they do look like giant turkeys, but that's not the point.
No, that's not the point. That's not the point.
The point is they are ravenous.
Yeah.
And they are pack animals.
Raptors, yeah.
Which means inherent. You can't just have one.
Right.
It's like having ducks or chickens. You know, you have one alone. Yeah. One, you're not going to get any eggs. Two, they're going to die of depression.
Right.
They're just going to be too sad. Right. You know? So, if I get one Velociraptor, I have to have at least like 4 more.
Yeah.
Because they have to come in from the side.
Which kind of, you know, when you're watching the first movie, you never think about what would happen if you could control these animals, if you could train them.
Right. So you don't think about that. And then when Chris Pratt comes into it.
When the other movies come out, you start to see that develop and you're like, wow, you know, that's kind of like pretty awesome to be able to.
And it brings a whole new meaning. Like, this is hilarious, but it brings a whole new meaning to, I bet you rode a dinosaur to school.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. Those movies are great. I love those movies. Because, I mean,
Grandma, Mom's mom, she used to always say that she rode a dinosaur to school. She did. When we were kids, she told us that she rode a T-Rex to school.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. All right.
Which, I mean, honestly, at this point, she's still kicking, so I'm full-heartedly believing at this point that she is older than Methuselah, so.
There you go. There's that. There you go. All right. So now we're off to what? Number 2? My number 2.
Your number 2 and then our honorable mentions.
My number 2 was a movie that I know she liked too. Tremors. With Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward and Michael Gross. And Reba McEntire. You cannot forget Reba McEntire in that first movie.
You cannot.
You
she
cannot.
Is gold on
that movie, it's a horror comedy. And it would come out in 1990.
Yep.
And it was one of those that was...
it took a different route.
It was made in homage to the old 1950s monster movies.
Yeah.
To pay respect 100%. To those. And they delivered without a hitch. I mean, that movie was just so iconic in the fact that it was in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
They were surrounded by mountains.
Yep.
There was only one way out of town.
Yep.
Which was blocked off because of the monsters. And the fact that you did not see the monsters through the first part of the movie.
Yeah, you don't see it for the first,
You don't see it for like the first 30 to 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
You see the kills.
Yeah.
The remnants of it, but you do not see the actual creatures. I think you see the actual tentacle of the creature first before you see the gigantic worm that it comes from.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think it wraps around the tire axle.
Yeah, it does.
So you see that first, but that kind of gives you an inkling. Okay, these things are small. What can these things do? But then when you see the
beast,
the actual beast that those tentacles are attached to, then
that
you're
comes
like,
out of the side of the dam.
God. And the delivery by all the characters in this movie, even Victor Wong, the guy that played the
little convenience store
guy. Yeah, the convenience store guy. He was so funny in this movie. All the characters were.
All of them, yeah.
Except for that one kid. I forgot what his name was.
Oh God!
I forgot what his name was.
Now that you say it, of course I'm not gonna know it.
But he is so
just annoying.
Nerve-wracking. Yeah. But anyway, Kevin Bacon was great in this movie. The camaraderie between him and Fred Ward.
Oh yeah.
You know, the friendship. You kind of saw it from the start of the film.
From the very beginning.
From the very beginning, that they were the best of friends.
Oh yeah. I mean, who else wakes up their ranching partner, you know, by telling them there's a freaking
Stampede.
stampede. Unless they're your best friend. I mean,
The banter between the two was great.
Oh, yes.
It was great.
And every decision is always made with rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. The best way to decide anything in the world. Rock,
Fair.
paper, scissors. Fair.
100% fair.
100% fair.
Yep.
Reba McEntire delivered in this movie. She didn't play in very many films.
She only played in the first Tremors, though.
But yeah, she was only in the first
and
one.
And that made me very sad. Like, every time I would watch 2 through the rest of them.
Yeah.
You know, you're sitting there like...
Yeah.
I miss Reba.
This movie could have had
like,
Reba.
the whole
This
time.
movie could have had Reba. And I think
I really wanted to... You know, I think about it sometimes. You know, what kind of person would Bert be if Reba would have stayed?
Right.
If Reba would have fought with him and would have actually went through this with him.
Yeah.
And what type of person would she have been?
Right.
You know?
How would her character have progressed?
In the other direction.
Yeah, going through all this stuff. Because I think they mentioned her several times in the other movies because her character was just so iconic from the get-go.
Yeah, especially the last one. They really talked about her in the last one. Because the last one they were in, what? Antarctica?
No.
Where was the last one? Was it in the...
No, you're right. I think that, yeah.
Yeah, because they just came out with one not too long ago.
Shrieker Island.
Yes, and it was Antarctica based. They were in the ice. And this is with Bert and his son. So, I mean, you know, their mom...
Yeah.
The mom comes in a lot, you know. Not physically, but in conversation. Reba comes up a lot.
Right.
Which sucks.
Yeah.
Because I'd much rather her be there.
Her actually be there and able to do it. And, you know, like I said, the comedy delivery is great. And the suspense is well done because it's kind of like it goes back to the Jaws where you don't see that creature for the first part of the film. And then little by little.
You see more and more
and more of it. So it's great in that aspect.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon and Fred Ward are hilarious together. My favorite quote from that movie was when he was talking about that list that has to tally up. Everything has to fall into place for the perfect woman for him. And he tells Fred Ward, he's like, I'm a victim of circumstance. And Fred Ward looked at him and said, I thought you called it your pecker. that line, that's perfect. That is perfect. That is perfect. Okay, so now we're off to your honorable mention.
My honorable mention is The Bridge to Terabithia.
Okay, all right. I don't think I've ever watched that.
Yes, you have.
All the way through.
Yes, you have.
I may have. I've seen so much stuff.
Okay, so
some of it I liked, some of it I didn't. But
The Bridge to Terabithia, once you watch it all the way through and you watch it again, you know, as more mature, you realize that this is the story of a boy who has no friends.
Yeah.
And then he finds a friend, and she is the most, like, she's the greatest friend, you know, she's always there for him, but she ends up dying.
Yeah.
So it kind of, like, by the end of the movie, you're thinking, like, has she really been here the whole time?
Yeah.
Or has she not?
Right.
Is this just him coping?
With
the loss of her. But, I mean, you really get a imaginative side, you know? Mm-hmm. Like in your previous video, you were talking about how cartoons they don't play to the imagination anymore.
Yeah.
This is one of those movies that no matter how old you are, how young you are, this is going to play to your imagination because of the other world that is on the other side of this bridge.
Right.
With giants and trolls and all kinds of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And it also kind of ties in with, not literally, you know, they don't go together, but the Spiderwick Chronicles. That is one of those.
No, I remember that one.
That is one
really
of those
good.
that was really good because, you know, it plays into that fantasy and imagination core that every human has, you know? And in that one, you know, you have a family that just moved and none of the kids want to be there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they miss their dad. They don't want to go with mom, you know?
Right.
And they end up getting attacked by these little hobgoblins.
Yeah.
And the only safe place is the house that they don't even want to be in.
They don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was good. I remember
that
watching
was a great
that
movie.
one. I remember watching that one. Okay, so my honorable mention is the 1979 horror classic Amityville Horror.
Mm.
And I'm saying 1979 classic because the remake was crap.
Agreed.
Ryan Reynolds tried to do his best with that remake, but there was no saving it at all to me. The 79 version with Margot Kidder of Superman fame was so suspenseful. And I use that term a lot in this list because all these movies were just, they were horror films, but they had that sense of urgency in some aspects when they needed to be, but it had suspense that built everything up.
Yeah.
Amityville Horror is a classic of suspense horror.
It really
a classic.
is.
And it had James Brolin, and some of you might know his dad, Josh Brolin, who played Thanos in Infinity War and in Avengers Endgame. James Brolin delivers a perfect performance in this film. Margot Kidder is perfect in this film. I think it was directed by Stuart. I got it wrote down here. Stuart Rosenberg. And I don't know. I didn't research to see if any of the other films that he had done, but this movie was tremendous. And the budget for this movie was only $4.7 million, which is kind of low.
That is kind of low
but
for such a great movie.
After the movie came out, it made $36.4 million in the box office, which was a big jump. Or no, not 36. $86.4 million at the box office.
Yep.
So, you can do a lot with a little when you have to.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And that movie proves it.
So does Saw.
Saw, exactly. And the thing that I like about those Saw, I'm getting off track. The things I like about those Saw movies is every single one of them connects them to.
Yeah, they're puzzle pieces. They're literal jigsaw pieces.
And they all fit together, and every time you think, well, how is this going to work? They go back and show you how it works.
Yeah.
And it fits perfectly.
It
like
really
a puzzle
does.
piece.
And I mean, you have to think, the only reason I brought up Saw is because when they made that first Saw movie, they basically had no budget. It was one room, 2 actors, and that's all they had, really.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jigsaw. That's all they had. And they made bank.
Yeah.
Off of a one-room movie.
James Wan is incredible. I mean, look what he's done. The Saws, It, the remake of It, Chapter 1 and Chapter 2.
Yep.
I mean, Insidious, The Conjuring. I mean, and they're coming out with the new Insidious movie. I've seen the trailers for it, and it looks incredible.
It looks smacker.
So, James Wan is becoming an icon.
He really is. He is cornering the market.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, you're right.
My number 1 was Trimmers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
all right. So we
I
added
love
up on
Trimmers.
That.
That's just something that,
movie.
I grew up watching. That was just one of my favorite. Yeah.
And
I just grew to love Kevin Bacon because of it, too.
Yeah, and like you, I'm sad that they didn't have Reba.
Yeah.
Through all of them. But Michael Gross carried on the Tremors franchise really, really well.
Yeah.
And I hate the fact that they're not gonna make any more.
I don't. See, I know I love these movies with my entirety of my being, but you can't beat a dead horse. It's already dead.
What I mean by that is, I hate the fact that because they had the series that was on Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
With Michael Gross, but he was the only one from the original cast that was in it.
Yeah.
It was a good show. It didn't last as long as I would have liked for it to.
Yeah.
But then there was all this internet speculation and all these little mock trailers that came out that Kevin Bacon was trying to push a new Tremors series that he wanted to be a part of. And that got my hopes up so high. But then when it fell over, I was just like, okay, it's done. And the way the last movie ended got me. I mean, it ranked right up there with Dean's death in Supernatural in the last episode. His final death. It ranked right up there with that when Michael Gross died.
We don't talk about that.
In the movie. But we're not going to go.
We can't talk about Supernatural.
We're going to move on. My number one is one of my favorite movies of all time. I can recite this movie word for word, and anybody who knows me knows what this movie is. It is Roadhouse. with Patrick Swayze, directed by Rowdy Harrington. This movie was so classic. I mean, the music in it was great. It wasn't like, it had some classic music from like the 60s and 70s in it.
Right.
But the Jeff Healey band, their career skyrocketed when this movie came out. They were so instrumental in making this movie what it was, along with Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze delivers an epic performance in this movie.
He delivers an epic performance in
every movie, just about.
Even from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, The Outsiders, hello, that was a great movie, and that should have been on my list.
Yeah, yeah. And hello, McFly. You cannot forget Sam Elliott. Sam Elliott in this movie was great. He was like the god of the bouncer.
Yeah.
The bouncers. He was the icon.
Oh, yeah.
Of bouncers in this movie. And the setup of everything was great. The script was great. The way the characters were portrayed was great. The one-liners were great. My favorite quote in this movie is when Patrick Swayze meets Emmett
Okay.
to rent that loft. And he calls Emmett Sir. And Emmett says, calling me sir is like having an elevator in an outhouse. It don't belong. He said, my name's Emmett. And from that line on, I mean, the iconic one-liners are abound in this movie. And if you have not seen this action movie, this classic movie, you need to watch this movie because it is awesome. So that is our top 10. There is a lot of differences.
Oh, yeah.
Because of the genre base. That's what we were trying to get across here.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we came together, almost came together with the same number one movie.
Yeah.
But we didn't. But it's a movie that we both enjoyed, so there you go. There's that. So this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this.
Me too.
So now we may parlay into doing something else. I think we had an idea. We're not going to speculate. We're not going to put it out there as what we're going to do. It's going to be a theory, but there's so many movies that could have been on this list that we could have put on this.
So many.
But like I said, it's so hard to narrow it down just to a top 10.
It really is
unbelievably hard.
I mean, I could turn around right now and find like 6 more movies.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah. I know one that you really liked. I know one, and it was a more recent film, The Pyramid.
That was an amazing horror movie. I mean, seriously, that was such a good movie. Just the CGI in that is just great. Yeah. And I mean, like, seriously, I can see, like, 7 that could have made that list and just didn't because I didn't think of them. Yeah. I mean, there's Ernest, the Ernest trilogy. The Ernest trilogy. That's great. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's see, Ride Along 2. Those were great. Those were hilarious.
You know, and there's so many. I mean, there's Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. And did you hear they're making another Beetlejuice? Yeah, and Michael Keaton's going to be in it, too? Yeah. I'm so excited for that.
It goes right along with him, you know, reoccurring roles as Batman now, Beetlejuice. Mm-hmm. There's Evolution. Evolution's a great movie, yeah. There's so many movies that we watched. So it was kind of hard to make that list and draw it down into 10, but we succeeded. And I think we did it very well. So
I think we did, too.
We hope you enjoyed this video, and keep a lookout for other ones. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and help promote the channel the best way you know how that you can do. And
share it on Facebook, man.
Share it on Facebook. We appreciate comments. We appreciate ideas on what videos you want to see. Put those in the comments as well. And like I said, please like, comment, subscribe, and keep this channel growing. And we will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. It's our problem-free philosophy. Hakuna Matata.